Hello class, my name is Jesse. I'm going to go over the book project I did, Call Sign Chaos, Learning to Lead. It's an autobiography on former Secretary of Defense and Four-Star General James Mattis. So we're going to go over his resume. We're going to go over the levels of leadership he was in: direct, executive, strategic. His principles. Some of his famous quotes he used in the battlefield. His unique accomplishments and lessons learned. So CHAOS was an acronym, actually. It stood for Colonel Has Another Outstanding Suggestion. So General Mattis was in the Marine Corps for 44 years, 41 as an officer. Here's some of the commands he took over. So Task Force 58 was actually a naval unit that he took over. He was actually the first Marine to command that unit ever in 200 years of the U.S. military. From there, he took many commands as a recruiting commander. Also, the Marine Corps Development Command. That's kind of where he took Marines that were kind of getting out or drawing down after the Gulf War. After that, he was at the 1st MEF, which is in California. Then he took his first 4-star position as NATO Supreme Allied Commander Transformation. And then U.S. Joint Forces Command, and which is now disbanded. U.S. Central Command, which is in charge of the area of responsibility for the Middle East. After he retired, he became a distinguished fellow at Stanford University, and then he was nominated by President-elect Trump during President Trump's first presidency to be the Secretary of Defense. So at the direct level is really where Mattis kind of formed his leadership style. Commanded troops in the battlefield as captain, colonel during the Gulf War. And then for about a period of 20 years, he really, was focused on peacetime and developing himself and going to school, War College, for instance. And then he went on to the executive level. This was like right after 9/11 happened. And he commanded not only Marines, but other sister service members and coalition forces. In the strategic level, he built partnerships with civilian, U.S., and international politicians to meet the nation's best interests. And this is where he was Secretary of Defense, or his time as Central Command Commander. Some of his leadership principles, so this is some that he adopted from the Marine Corps. So competence, the ability to know what you're talking about, and then how to talk about it, and then also having the physical capability and mental capacity to know what you're talking about. Caring for your troops, caring for their welfare, and their overall growth and development to execute the mission, and conviction. So don't let your values fall to the wayside or sugarcoat stuff. He always led on with command and feedback. So don't control your subordinates' every move, clearly, as long as you clearly state your intent and unleash their initiative. He was focused on winning one battle, and the battle was winning the hearts of his troops. In that, if he won that battle, the troops would win the war for him or win the fight for him. When he was a recruit commander, he recruited for attitude, and he sought that. So he pushed hard on waivers and trying to get Marines in to build up the force. Through this, he also learned the art of persuasion. He later would use this art and this technique later on when he was dealing with international leaders in other countries and building up their militaries. Commander's intent. So commander's intent is best defined as, if Nike tells you to just do it, what does that just do it mean? Does that mean go run a mile? Does that mean go hike up a hill? Okay, how many miles are we running? How much time does it prepare to do that hike or run that? Or is there a goal in mind that you're trying to meet? You know, are you trying to make a 7-minute pace mile? Are you trying to just run for longer distances? The commander's intent tells you to go in order to take this hill, to get rid of the enemy, but it's up to the subordinates, the non-commissioned officers, the sergeants, and other junior officers, the captains, the lieutenants, to figure out what that commander's intent is and attack it and meet the intent. Bare minimum, meet the intent, but subordinates can get creative and surprise you and on new ways of doing processes. At least that's what I learned. He valued speed. So speed to make decisions, to make accurate decisions, and to make applicable decisions. He also stayed lean. So every office he went to, he wanted to make sure that his staff level, was either slimmed down so that the tactical level can get done on the ground. Some of the famous quotes he had, or at least I'll go off two. So one, it was during Operation Iraqi Freedom. This was in March 2003. And he told his subordinates, when we kick off, I want that hill a foot shorter, which just tells you the kind of sense of humor he had. And also the second one, be polite, be professional, but have a plan to kill everybody you meet. And this is him being a gentleman, but knowing not to play nice with me or take my kindness for weakness kind of deal. The OODA loop. So this is something that I learned in the military as well. The first leadership school I went to, I learned about observe, orient, decide, act. This was based on Lieutenant Colonel Boyd, actually Colonel Boyd, famous Air Force pilot who came up with this idea. But it was basically, if you're, go with your mind before you go with your gun. So think of your mind as the ultimate weapon, because the mind controls the hand for the weapon you're firing. Some unique accomplishments. So as I mentioned before, he was the first Marine and non-naval officer, for that matter, to command Task Force 58. When he was at his first 4-star general position, he disbanded, joined Task Force Combatant Command. This saved the government a lot of money, and even millions and even into the billions of future costs, rotations, and expenditures. He was fired from CENTCOM by the Obama administration and Secretary of Defense at the time because he wanted to continue security force operations in the Middle East. At late 2016, when President-elect Trump was elected, he nominated General Mattis to be the Secretary of Defense. He made history, though, because he was only the second person to have a waiver put in place, because you have to have 7 years lapsed between military service and federal service for this position, and he was waived unanimously by Congress. Shortly thereafter, his time was small. He was only in the seat for 2 years, so he resigned because he didn't agree with he didn't think that the Secretary of Defense should disagree with a commander-in-chief, with the president, so he resigned his position. A couple lessons I learned. So these are two pictures. The first one up top is from the book. It's on page 41. and it just talks about the importance of reading. The one on the bottom is the feedback I've given to my troops recently, like the last 3 or 4 years, and I just feel like they're not reading enough. So I lay that expectation for my subordinates that they need to read, and it's important to read. And I have a further explanation at the top. You read so you can accelerate decision making and recommendations, and you don't abbreviate them, because when you abbreviate them, you tend to leave stuff out, and you don't give the commander or the person you're trying to communicate the information to all the information they need to make that decision. From here, I learned not to punish or hold back initiative. I'll learn from actions and reactions and apply to the next task. And then speak, act, and follow through in the most direct manner possible, because this limits hesitation and interpretation and stuff that could be handled. Even if it's wrong, it's better to make a decision and learn from it afterwards. And that concludes my presentation.